impeachment?
Well, I'd really rather not comment. However, I think, you all know impeachment, and the House brings the impeachment, and then the Senate sits as a court and votes. At the end, there's a trial in front of the Senate. And kind of been there, done that. It's not...
Yeah, we've both done that.
Not the greatest thing in the world, that's for sure. Look, this man is going to be president, most likely for the rest of this term. I just hope he has the ability to learn and to change. And if he does, he can be a good president. And that's my hope. I have my own personal feelings about it. Yeah, I understand how you feel. I understand how you feel.
And stunned crowd could not even believe that Feinstein would say it. And to me, it was common sense that she came to her senses to realize this is ridiculous. 4 years he's going to spend at least in the White House. That's the reality. That's the reality that all of us that listen to For the People pretty much understand. Of course, they are in San Francisco. Yes, speak out. Say whatever you want to speak out. Here, what did she say here before? That's just the admonishment to the crowd is what they're trying to do. Talk out, speak out, do whatever you want to do here. Let's see. Hold on. Where is it at? Here's the Feinstein in the beginning.
Turn against President Trump. They're a little late by my watch. Criticize him publicly and urge his resignation or impeachment.
Okay, so Ellen Thatcher, a former Bay Area Congress, they said this was a love fest. I'm surprised people didn't ask for a refund. But I thought it was a very interesting exchange, and this is really firing off. A lot of people are just not happy with the remarks of Feinstein. And, folks, like I say, she's been a very tough critic of Trump. What did she most recently slam his decision to pardon Sheriff Joe Aparo of Arizona, saying that Trump's actions showed a flagrant disregard, is what she said, for the rule of law in this country. It's Joe Arpaio, the controversial sheriff. So, anyways, folks, those in San Francisco, those on the left coast, they dance to a different drum altogether out there. These are the Hollywood crowds. These are the left of the lefts. But Feinstein, she understands how Washington works. Even Dianne Feinstein, even she has to work with the president because she recognizes that he is the president of the United States. And I believe what she said irked the crowd because of the fact she supported the president. She acknowledged that he is, acknowledged reality. And the reason that they did not acknowledge it because it's not the reality that they live in. It's not the reality that they want, or they willing to accept. That's why it's given rise to Antifa and to hate groups out there that would love to just keep on pushing anarchy across the country. And I'm just fearful that there's going to be much more of that because there's people that just will not settle down to reality and get on with the business of the people. Get on with their own personal lives. Instead of trying to tear down the president, I think Feinstein was basically saying, look, if he can learn, to Trump's credit, I think he's learned a lot. And I think Feinstein acknowledges he can be a great president, but none of the left, at least those attending in the audience that booed and were jeering and were stunned at what Feinstein said, want Trump to be a great president, a good president. They don't want him to be the president, because they hate him. Where was the disdain for Barack Obama? No, there was a love fest there because he was speaking their language. Okay, whatever you want, I'm going to do. I'm for every group, whatever you want to be, whoever you want to do. It don't matter to me. Whatever you want to do, we'll just let whatever country you want this to be, tear down all the monuments, rename the schools. That's okay. That's American. You didn't build it. We'll just do whatever we want to do with it. This isn't your dad's America, okay? Enough of it. I know I do Barack Obama too well, but they are in disbelief. They're like in their nightmare. Anyways, you had to hear the audio, and I think it's a good sign, somewhat, for the Dems to hear Feinstein at least say this, because maybe it'll have some people at least think why she said what she said. And some people say, it was a good political move for Feinstein to do this. And, the president took notice, and those in the White House took notice. But maybe some of the Dems now that are so against him, maybe will come on board and say, just kind of like the Republicans, the Dems, the Republicans. Oh, I got it wrong because of, that's right, Bill Clinton was a Dem. Of course he was. But the Republicans worked with him the second term. Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but eventually they're like, we're not going to get anything done. Everything's going to be at a standstill. Nothing's going to happen. We're not going to be able to get any of this legislation passed unless we come together bipartisan and help this country and its constituents so we can at least get this thing going. We may not like the president. We may not love the president, but we need to work with this president. That's at least the takeaway that I get from all of this particular thing, and I think she understands this. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Healthcare, big legislation. It affects all of us in this country, and this is something that needs to be tackled once and for all. Sorry that you lost the election. Sorry your boy, Sanders, he didn't get in. They can run again if they want in 2020. Have to it. I mean, this will give us more stuff to talk about. Please. I insist. Run. It's their right to be able to do it. Coast Guard helicopters, local boaters known as the Cajun Navy, that's what they're calling it out there in Texas, rescuing Texas residents stranded on rooftops still in historic flooding from the tropical storm Harvey. Houston's convention center has become a makeshift refugee camp as hundreds of soaked evacuees arrive in need of food, dry clothing, and a place to ride out the storm. Almost hourly, officials from the Federal Emergency Management Agency appear on the few television screens still working with updates about disaster relief efforts. The scenes playing out as Hurricane Harvey is battering southeastern Texas are heartbreakingly familiar to those who fled Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans just 12 years ago. Do you believe that was 12 years ago? It doesn't seem like that. I remember being on a station in Tampa. What was I on? 570. The frequency that actually started in New York on, interesting enough, and owned by the same company that owns WMCA now, is Salem Communications. But I was reporting Katrina on that station 12 years ago. That is the craziest thing. And some of the images that you see in Texas look very reminiscent. The reason I bring this up is because of the bad memories and the old fears for Katrina survivors that are really having a tough time, and some having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, and just having a really bad time, just insult to injury. It's kind of like during the 04-05 hurricane season here in Florida, where people were trying to get out of the eye of the hurricane, and they decided to go to Orlando. And if you remember correctly, as they were driving to Orlando, they went right into the eye because the hurricane actually shifted into Punta Gorda. So they got the winds, the rains, power outages, and they drove right into the storm. And so in a way, these people tried to escape thinking that could never happen again, and yet it happened again. And so, some people are talking global warming or whatever it might be, but the mere fact it's happened again, and now Louisiana is getting pelted again. And according to some of the engineers that I've read online and paid attention to on the television, they are hoping that their levees and dams and everything will remain intact, and that they won't have that type of flooding that we saw there in Katrina. It's not going to be to that proportions, but they do expect some local heavy rain, some flooding, but not what you've seen in Houston. Not what we've seen there. So that's the early reports. From what I understand, there's going to be some damage reports. There's going to be some flooding there, but it's a tropical storm still, and they have winds up to 45 miles per hour. But these floodwaters, man, have chased thousands of Houston residents to rooftops and to higher ground, and the messages they constantly put out there: don't go in the attic. Don't go in the attic. And if you do, have an axe. Axe it right away. But there's people getting rescued on. You can see these pictures right now. It's so weird, with people standing on the rooftops with just water, up to their legs, just holding on to something until boats can come by. Just this wacky. Remember, I've been so upset about the left not denouncing Antifa. Well, guess what? Nancy Pelosi condemned Antifa, saying there was no excuse for violence in a statement she made yesterday that called out the leftist militant group that resist neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Wow, Dianne Feinstein saying that Trump could be a great president. Now we got Nancy Pelosi on Antifa saying no excuse for violence. The House Minority Leader was referring to violent protest in Berkeley that we covered here that happened over the weekend, in which several people were injured after a group of black-clad anarchists stormed the peaceful procession. She says, our democracy has no room for inciting violence or endangering the public, no matter the ideology of those who commit such acts, Pelosi said in her statement. The violence actions of people calling themselves Antifa in Berkeley this weekend deserve unequivocal condemnation, and the proprietors should be arrested and prosecuted. Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. Thank you for saying these things. I commend her. This is something that needs to happen more on the left. But it's something that is honorable. I think it was needed, and I hope there's more of this, but this is a start. It wasn't Chuck Schumer, but it was Nancy Pelosi, the House Minority Leader. I commend her for this. Thank God for this. The clash at Berkeley, if you didn't hear, over the weekend resulted in 6 injuries and 13 arrests. In California, as across all of our great nation, we have deep reverence for the constitutional right to peaceful, decent, and free speech, she said in her statement. Nancy Pelosi, she went on, nonviolence is fundamental to that right. Let us use this sad event to reaffirm that we must never fight hate with hate, and to remember the values of peace, openness, and justice that represents the best of America. Then there was a tweet. A Twitter account identifying itself with the Berkeley Antifa group responded to Pelosi's comments by posting an image with the statements, no regrets, no apologies. 100% anti-fascist. Okay. It's the same group, by the way, with the neo-Nazis, etc., that are in this too. that had no apology for the KKK. Same mindset, no apology.